Welcome back, everyone. I'm here with Luke Chin and Connor McCabe. They're the president and vice president of GSD here at the ADSA this year. I'd like to start off with you, Luke. Kind of give us a background. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're from Cornell University, but tell us a little bit about yourself and your role as president of the GSD.
Sure. Currently, I'm a PhD candidate at Cornell University. My work has been focused on developing predictive models for dairy spoilage, particularly in cheese and fruit and milk. So using our models, dairy processors can predict, for example, how much percentage of the milk will be spoiled at the end of shelf life. And the good thing about this type of model is that people can use it to test out different intervention strategies to see what effect it can bring to reduce the spoilage. And I've been joining GSD since 2 years ago when I became a vice president. Now my role with the president is mostly oversees all the events we're going to plan for the annual meeting, as well as different activities throughout the year.
Yeah. And so what are some of those events that you have here at the conference itself?
We already had our social mixers on Sunday, in which we have the trivia planned for this at this brewery. I also organized this entrepreneurship workshop yesterday.
Okay.
We invited 4 speakers, and they're from different dairy companies, but they are entrepreneurs at the executive level, but they're at different level of their companies are at different stages of their career.
Oh.
Yeah, so our students can learn to outside the lab what skills they needed to be entrepreneur.
Yeah. Cool. So Connor, this is your second time on the podcast. You were here last year as vice president, soon to be president, and going to be passing that baton sometime tomorrow, I hear. Before we get started, I want you to give a little bit of background on yourself, but before you do, can you tell us what GSD stands for and kind of their greater role here at the ADSA?
Absolutely. So the GSD stands for Graduate Student Division. So we're the graduate student portion of the meeting. We have about 1,600 people here attending ADSA as a whole, but 450, 500 of those participants are graduate students. And graduate students, of course, are the ones who are all doing the work, putting in the hours, being at the farm, being in the lab over the weekends, and helping further and advance their science along the way. And we know that scientific presentation is a big piece and big important reason for students to come here towards the meeting. But there's equal benefit and opportunity through networking, career development, professional pieces and such throughout the year that we look to be part of the GSD and help include and improve the student experience here at the meeting. So it's not just coming here to present science, but you're also meeting your fellow scientists who are going to be leading the dairy industry, coming after here, future academics and the future members of the industry.
Connor, I've known you for a couple of years. I know your background. Would you mind sharing, though, with our audience a little bit about who Connor is and what Connor's all about?
Oh, certainly. So Connor McCabe, a third-year PhD candidate now at UC Davis. I work with Dr. Frank Mitlerner, so working on environmental, methane, nitrogen emissions from dairies, what we can feed cows, change on farms to reduce those said emissions. And it's an exciting, super interesting place to be in California with a lot of stakeholders, of course, interested in our work, kind of where environmental things all start and where they're going to percolate throughout the U.S., throughout the rest of the world. So extremely interesting place to be. My involvement with ADSA GSD began when I pursued my master's degree at Purdue University back in 2019, and then started firstly with being involved in leadership last year, the 2022 meeting in Kansas City, where I was on GSD production director, have served as vice president this last year, and then we'll continue on into president my last year, this next year for our meeting coming up 2024 in West Palm Beach. And that's been my cycle as I hopefully just have a couple years left of graduate school and concluding my educational career to this point.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about your role as vice president, and then how's that going to change when you become president?
As vice president, so a lot of the pieces I've been working on was mainly committee work. So that my thing this past year was working on career development for the graduate student division. So thinking about creating webinars for students to take part in. Luke did an excellent job in helping lead some of those, put them together on the food side, as well as creating a discussion, a roundtable session that we'll have this afternoon between folks who are just finished out of their PhD within 5-10 years of their PhD, and hopefully spread some knowledge, interest, advice for those graduate students looking into the job market in the next year or so, and what they can be on from there, because I think there's just as much benefit to learn about the greatest and newest dairy science that's happening here, as well as the opportunity to learn about how that career changes, and you start making some real money, and the hours are a little bit more reasonable. So what else? There's a whole bunch we still don't know about once we cross that path, but that's part of the pieces that we've been involved in. And next year as president, we'll be more into a oversight and helping coordinate pieces. This first year was mainly to me to understand what was all happening on, and then next year we'll hopefully be able to take with it and run with it to put on another great meeting next year.
Sounds good. Luke, I'm sure you've been a good role model for Connor. What kinds of things have you kind of counseled him on as in preparation for becoming president next year?
Well, I think communication is key. We have to make sure the whole committee, that the officers, are in the same page for everything, and always keep track of the things. So have a agenda throughout the year to prepare. So make sure for all types of events we know what deadline we are going to meet. Yeah. But I think Connor is already doing a good job. I'm not worried about him.
All right, good deal.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
So, Luke, what's the future look like for you? What's your plans after Cornell?
My plan after Cornell is still Cornell. I'm going to stay as a postdoc to continuing to do the exciting research I'm currently on. Yeah. I hope I can stay connected to GSD and with ADSA as well to advertise my research and see what impact can I make.
Excellent. Connor, what about you? What's the future look like for you?
So I have a couple more years, of course, till I'm finished up and finish up at Davis. I'm really interested in working with supply chains and thinking about how can we reduce the environmental impact of dairy, livestock production to actually make change. We have some really cool science happening out here, but much of that science is locked into academic or professional settings, and thinking about how can we actually make that impact on farms to help reduce the environmental impact of production, and so that we can make great environmental outcomes at the producer level. So working, whether that's with like a retailer group or an agriculture industry member on that front, that's kind of what I'm interested in right now, but still a couple years to explore and see what will be available when I finish on up. So
yeah. Good. Clay, we've met a lot of very sharp and talented people this week. It's really amazing. The industry's in very good hands, but these two gentlemen are they're at the top of the heap, right? And
yes, they are.
Yeah. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining us today. You've been an excellent guest. I also want to thank our loyal listeners for joining us once again. We hope you learned something. I hope you had some fun, and hope to see you next time here to Real Science Exchange, where it's always happy hour and you're always among friends.